I'm not so sure that 10,000 steps was debunked in the new article, but let me show you what it does actually say so you can understand it better. And hit the follow button because I'm Dr. Wendy, I'm a physical therapist, and I talk to ladies all day long about things that you can do to feel better and what does the science show so we can optimize our health. A lot of people on the internet are saying that 10,000 steps has been debunked. Now, I'm going to tell you that arbitrary number was picked by a company for marketing. Yes, but if you're a person who's following me, odds are good you have a vagina and you're 40 plus. So what does this article mean for you specifically? That is the group I'm speaking to. Here we go. If you want to do a screenshot so you can find the article for yourself, let's go. Now, number one, this is a beautiful article. Beautifully done, well done. It is daily steps and health outcomes in adults, a systematic review and dose response meta-analysis. And that dose response is what everybody is talking about. And so let's get into it. The moral of the story for this particular article is this is right from the article itself. This is the take-home message. Daily step volume is consistently associated with lower risks of major health outcomes. Although risk reductions occur even at lower step counts, they continue to, there's more and more, with increasing steps per day. Approximately 7,000 steps per day was associated with risk reductions for all outcomes examined and might serve as a practical target for you in the public. This is more about a public health announcement to get people moving. And what the authors have done is taken multiple studies, broke it down, looked at it, crunched it, they reviewed it, they threw some out, they added some in, and I'm going to review some specific things for you. But they also state that perhaps these far out numbers like 10,000 steps might be very intimidating for people. And so they wanted humans to know that you could get benefits at a lower step count. Cadence is a whole nother thing. So their findings were very important evidence for physical activity guidelines. Daily step volume is associated with lower risk of major health outcomes. And although risk reduction occurs even at lower step counts, they continue with increasing steps per day. The more steps you take, the better. When you get down into the research, they took 57 studies from 35 cohorts. That was in this systematic review. And then they did 31 studies with 24 cohorts, which was a meta-analysis. So it was like 2 studies in one. This is such a well-done study. So there was improvement for all-cause mortality, cardiovascular disease, dementia, and falls. So as the dose went up, there was an improvement there, with the biggest blip on the radar being from 5 to 7,000 steps. So if you can get yourself to 5,000 steps, amazing. And if you could go from 5 to 7, even better. And that's where the biggest jump was. So getting to 7 is where the biggest benefit is for these things. Although 10,000 steps can be a viable target for those who are more active, 7,000 steps a day can be associated with meaningful clinical health outcomes and improvements. It might be realistic and achievable for most people. So they're not saying 10,000 isn't good. They're just saying, oh my gosh, we just want people to be able to achieve this. And what can we say for sure without a shadow of a doubt? If you do this step, you will get improvement. And it's 7. So these studies should be interpreted in light of the limitations such as a small number of specific studies available for most outcomes, a lack of age-specific analysis, and basically biases. So I talk to women 40 plus, like this is more overall patient population, all human. So this is saying the biggest jump is between 5 and 7,000 for these things. But let's talk about specifically the things that I talk about orthopedically, which is falls, bone density, muscle health, and body recomposition. And they did do subgroup analysis, so let me show you one. What applies to me and my people is in this subgroup for physical function, 5 studies were included in this systematic review, not the meta-analysis. A meta-analysis cannot be done due to the scarcity of similar data. So this is where I'm like, okay, we're improving all things, but for the things I talk about, it really wasn't in that study. But another study found that 7,000 steps per day was associated with maintained or improved lower extremity performance. In a study of community-dwelling older adults with chronic pain, taking 4,149 or fewer steps per day was associated with a higher risk of functional disability during a 2-year follow-up. So under 5 is not so good for orthopedic functional physical health. In a sample of patients with secondary hip osteoarthritis, steps per day was inversely associated with deterioration in physical function after a year. However, a study with patients with hip fractures did not find daily steps predictive of physical function 12 weeks later. Finally, based on a study of participants with knee osteoarthritis, White and colleagues identified more than 6,000 steps per day as a preliminary threshold for reducing the risk of developing functional limitations. So 6 is as low as you can be. And when you look at falls, all 4 studies identified for the systematic review were among older adults who were included in a meta-analysis, which revealed that nonlinear dose-response association between steps per day and incidental falls, with an inflection point at 8,846 per day for falls. So do you see what I mean? I don't know that 10,000 steps is thrown out because this is saying 5 to 7 for all causes or mortality for public health, but for falls, hey man, 8,846. Would you feel better if I said 8,846? Because that is going to be my new number.